non-fiction magnum opus, perhaps, even your masterpiece. It's called The Battle of Belonging, and I would urge everyone here to read it because it gives you an insight into many of the contentious headlines that have permeated our politics and have hit the news headlines. Tell us a bit about it and why you wrote it and what it's about.
Well, I have to say that I agree with David that it's a book that I should be very proud of, and I'm disappointed it's not been as widely read as I'd like, but it came out during COVID, and that was the time when book releases kind of never happened, and the book itself didn't get the attention I thought it deserved. It's called, the subtitle of the book is On Nationalism, Patriotism, and What It Means to Be an Indian. And what I've done is I've taken the concepts of nationalism around the world, globally, from the very invention of the word, brought it down to the 20th century, and then talked about Indian nationalism, which began as a classic anti-colonial nationalism and then transmuted itself through the writing of the Constitution into what we call civic nationalism, which is a nationalism that's anchored in a constitution and in institutions rather than in a religious or ethnic or linguistic identity, which was what you had in Europe. In Europe, in the 19th century, if you were a German nationalist, that meant you were white, you were German, and I mean you were a Christian and you spoke German. If you were French nationalist, you were white, you spoke French, and you were ethnically from there, and your religion was Christianity. This was the usual notion of nationalism the Europeans had embedded in us, but our constitution makers explicitly rejected that. They said our freedom struggle was for everybody, and we will write a constitution that enshrines equal rights for everybody, irrespective of what religion they practice, what caste they belong to, what language they speak, whichever part of the country they were born in, it didn't matter. You could be a good Malayali, a good Muslim, and a good Indian all at once. That was the message of the Constitution. And to my mind, that kind of nationalism is very important. I also describe this in some detail, including in the context of the recent attempts by the powers that be to shift India away from civic nationalism into something much more like ethno-religious nationalism under the Hindutva movement. And I also have some interesting discussions of the difference between nationalism and patriotism. Because to me, patriotism is love of country, the way you love your mother. You don't love your mother because she is beautiful or because she is a great scholar or a good teacher or a great cook or whatever. There are no becauses. You love your mother because she's your mother. You belong to her, she belongs to you. That's love. That's the kind of love that patriotism involves for your country. It's your country, you belong to it. Flaws, warts and all, doesn't matter. That's what patriotism is. Nationalism, on the other hand, is much more assertive, even aggressive sometimes. It's about the state, it's about the institutions and symbols of the state, and it's often articulated in opposition to other states and other nationalisms. One of my sentences in the book, which has been quoted from time to time, is this: that a patriot is prepared to die for his country, but a nationalist is prepared to kill for his state. Now that is the difference between the two, and that's also a discussion in the book. I hope you will read it because it kind of, in a sense, the urgent political, constitutional, and political philosophical counterpart to the why I'm a Hindu argument about why shifting the nature of our nationalism into ethno-religious nationalism is again a fundamental challenge to the basic project enshrined in our constitution.
Shashi, I think I've been given the signal to wind things up.
Okay.
So I'm going to open the floor to questions.
Sure.
I think we can take a few.